Hi, this is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California. Here today to help you learn how to jump through to sitting. This is a big thing you're going to see a lot in the Ashtanga practice in particular. You'll also want to check out my other video, which is on how to pull back through, but we're not going to do that today. We're going to jump through. Okay, so what you're going to want today is 2 blocks. Yoga blocks are better than like toy building blocks from your kids' building set. And a blanket. Now the blanket doesn't have to be a yoga blanket. This is just a plain old blanket. It doesn't really matter what blanket. You're going to fold up your blanket so that it fits between the blocks being approximately shoulder distance apart. The first thing that we're going to learn is how to jump from downward facing dog, landing basically on our knees on this blanket. Okay, so the 2 things you have to learn when we're jumping or have to know is A, we're going to land with our toenails on the floor, which means that I start obviously with the bottoms of my feet on the floor, but I land toenails on the floor. You see how my feet are pointing backwards, toenails down. This is very important. If you land on the bottoms of your feet like this, you're gonna get stuck. And by the way, if you're landing on the bottoms of your feet, it means you're jumping from fear instead of from bravery. So we're gonna move into the bravery bit, and let's just ixnay on the ear fay, okay? So you jump, you're gonna land on the tops of your feet, and the other thing is that we need to cross our ankles, okay? Obviously when we jump, we're not jumping with crossed legs, okay? We jump just from a normal downward facing dog. But as soon as I jump, and I'm pressing strongly into my arms for height, I cross, and I'm gonna land right on my knees, crossed ankles on my blanket. Now, why do we cross our ankles? Because, and I've said this in other videos, diagonal lines hit the floor slower than vertical lines. If you're a mathematician, that's probably like, ooh, I love that, you know, that's awesome, math. But for those of you who are not mathematicians, just take my word for it that diagonal lines, meaning crisscross legs, mean that you're going to be higher off the floor. How about that, okay? So it's really hard to get through if you don't cross those ankles. So that's the first thing we need to learn to do is downward facing dog. I've got my blanket set up just behind my block shoulders distance. My gaze always way forward. Hips stay really high, arms strong. I'm going to jump, watch how my ankles cross and point down on my landing, okay? Once you're on your landing, the reason we have the blanket is that we're going to just do a little floor sweeping here. So you're going to lift up your knees to your chest, and you're just going to push the blanket through your arms. So what it's going to do is it's going to teach us the basic action of what happens from the back of my mat, or I should say from sort of the sitting position to the pull-through position. And of course, it will polish your floors in the meantime, so get out the pledge. Okay, so in one fell swoop, it's going to look like this. Feet together, arms straight, gaze forward. Bend your knees, keep your hips high. Use your arms for strength so we land lightly on the toenails, crossed ankles. Push through. Okay? Great. Then you can take your blanket out of the way. We're done with the blanket. Let's get on to our yoga mats instead. I actually like the yoga mat better because the blocks stay better, and we don't want to select them and kill ourselves. That is never a good thing. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to try the same thing, but this time, instead of having the blanket to help us slide through, we're going to work on actually lifting. So, same thing, I look forward, feet together, tush high, arms straight. Make sure your head doesn't drop after you jump, because people tend to do that. I jump, immediately crossing my ankles, toenails down, and land, this time on my invisible blanket. To get through, I'm going to push down into my arms, lift my knees to my chest, and I'm going to pivot my hips to take me through. Okay? You certainly don't have to straighten out the legs. In fact, I was debating whether to or not. It turned out pretty crappy. So, to get that action, your blocks are sort of between your knees and your ankles. Arms pressed down, knees lift up. And I'm just going to press down strongly to lift my feet, pivot my legs. Maybe I straighten out and come down. Okay? You don't even have to straighten out. Okay? So, toenails, crisscross, knees lift, press down, and plop. Now notice how I'm not jumping. I'm not pressing into my leg. This is not a leg action. I'm not doing this. Okay? This is all arms and all core. Remember, the feet are following the pose, not leading the pose. Knees up, press down, pull through, and down. Okay. That one could take a while, and again, this is a two-part process. First, you're going to jump. So it's down dog, hips high, looking forward, jump, cross your ankles, land on your toenails, knees up, pivot, and through. Okay? So, once that becomes easy, now the next thing that we're going to try to do, and we'll go ahead and keep the blocks for now, is we're going to try to jump, and this time, instead of landing, we're going to try to catch it in midair, in Lolasana, in the pendant. In order to do that, I'm going to have to really pull my core in. So remember that action when I had my knees here, and then I push down to lift up, okay? Now that's all core. Think sort of like a cat pose. You're just crunching up in here to bring everything up. You're going to do your jump from the back of the mat, and then when you get to the front of the mat, you're going to engage that core like crazy. We're going to see if we can find suspension in the air. So I'm in my downward facing dog. Feet are together, gaze is high. I bend my knees, and once I jump, instead of aiming for the floor and letting my legs drop, I'm going to engage my hip to pull the knee tightly to the chest and use my core to catch myself. And then same pull through. Okay, now, in order to get this catch, your core is going to have to act as your brakes. Your legs accelerate you to the front of the mat. Your arms sustain you so that you don't, collapse on the floor. But it's your core that's going to do all the work to hold you in the air. So again, imagine a little crunch like this. And by the way, doing lots of crunches like this helps a lot to teach you how to do this. So it's that same little ball, I'm just sort of facing down. Then when I get my hover, pivot and through. Again. Feet together, tush is high. Looking forward, I'm going to press into my block so my arms are really straight to help to keep me off the floor. I jump, cross, hover, pivot, and through. Okay, hello, blocks. Meaning goodbye, blocks. Okay, same thing, no blocks. So a lot of times we get rid of the blocks and we get all freaked out like, I can't do it without the blocks. You can do it without the blocks, it's just that you're going to have that much more lift, which is going to come from two places. One, root and rebound. Press down through your arms. The more you press down, the more you go up. B, 2. The second thing that you're going to have to do to get more height is use more core. The more you engage, the higher you're going to go. We're going to try that same thing. Maybe you can get that little pause in the middle. If you can't get the little pause, it's fine to jump and pretend the pause and see if you can skip right through to that hip pivot. The hip pivot. Okay, so I'm in my downward facing dog. Remember that my gaze is always forward, well beyond my hands, even after I jump. I bend my knees a a lot, arms are nice and straight. Once I jump, I'm going to cross my ankles and point my feet. See if I can hover to pull through. Now, you see that fancy backwards thing I did? I have another video for that, so be sure to check that one out, okay? Because these two go hand in hand. Now, even though the hover is really, really lovely and really sexy, eventually we're just going to smooth that out so that there is no hover. We're going to take this into one just easy swoop. So palms are flat, it's all the same stuff. It's just that when I get to that point where I think I'm going to land or hover, I just immediately need to take my hips, turn them under as if my knees could pull up to my chest to engage my core to jump through. Nice and smooth. Feet together, gazes forward, bend your knees a lot. Remember that the arms are going to stay straight and the core is going to engage like you're doing the craziest crunch you ever did in your life. Also, you can't jump too low. If your toenails scrape the floor, this isn't going to work. So you got to sort of jump up, cross, pivot, and through. Ta-da! Okay. Does it take some work? Yeah, it does. Can you do it? Of course you can. This is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California, wishing you some happy jumping.